So welcome back guys. Today we are in the middle of the lesson. I think we have completed exhaustible and inexhaustible natural resources. Yes? Okay. In the exhaustible and inexhaustible natural resources, next topic we need to complete this, that is fossils. You need to know about this fossils. If anyone asks you what is a fossil, olden days, no, you might remember dinosaurs or something else, right? So if you consider these dinosaurs or something, when they died, there might be remains of these dead living things, right? So bones or something else, and we'll call them as a fossils. But right now we are dealing with the fossil fuels, not those fossils. Now we are dealing with fossil fuels, right? So about 300 million years ago, which means there is no dinosaurs here. Okay, so about 300 million years ago, what happens is there is no dinosaurs, but what instead? Instead, there is a single-celled organisms, right? So there is a vast number of single-celled organisms. Along with this, deep forests might be present here, right? But suppose if you consider the land contains a forest everywhere. It's a forest, right? And a single-celled organism. So when these organisms die, right, and they settle at the top layer of this land, right? And also plants might die too, right? Yes, when these plants also die, they also get settled at this layer. So what happens is, as year by year, due to different seasons, what happens is there might be some amount of floods due to the floods and some natural calamities. What happens is, suppose if there is a heavy rain, okay, then there might be heavy flood might happen, right? So due to these floods, what happens when these floods moves out of that place, okay, it deposits some amount of soil over these dead remains, right? So as years progressed, okay, as years progressed, what happens is, and we came to the topmost layer, okay, so soil gets deposited over them year by year, right? So as we are moving to 300 million years, which means there might be several layers of land gets deposited, right? So let's consider this is the starting layer, and I think as layers completed, I think we are now at this position, right? So these were the layers of sand, okay? So if you look at carefully, suppose let's say these were the dead organisms now. Okay, let's consider like this, right? In this case, we are at this position. You are standing here. Okay, at the bottom, this is overall the land, right? Okay, so if you go deeper, from these deeper, we'll come to the here. There might be something. What is it? It's Earth's crust, right? So this is Earth's crust, and this is the dead remains, right? So there might be distance here, right? Okay, there might be a lot of distance between these two, but the temperature inside the crust is very high. So we'll consider it is high temperature, right? But if you consider this case, what happens is, as layer by layer it gets deposited over these plants, what happens is, suppose let's consider this is your head. I am putting one book over here, second, third, fourth, fifth and sixth, book by book. Now what happens is, the weight, okay, gets applied to your head. Yes or no? Which is nothing but pressure. Okay, so as layer by layer increased, the pressure gets increased. Oh, wonderful. So due to high pressure and high temperature, is there any oxygen present here? No oxygen. So if there is a oxygen is present, what happens is there might be decomposition process continues, right? But there is no oxygen. What happens is only half of the part gets decomposed and remaining remains there, right? So these remains, okay, we'll call them as a fossils, and these fossils, due to high temperature and high pressure, as years progress, what happens is they start converted to coal. Okay, what they are going to become? They are going to become a coal, right? So, and the process where these dead cells or fossils gets converted into fossil fuels or coal, that process we'll call it as a carbonization. What do we call it? Carbonization. Wonderful, right? So these coal gets extracted through the coal mines. Okay, so they build these coal mines in the place where there is abundance of coal is present, right? So now you need to know about a coal now, right? So it is, coal is one of the important fossil fuel. So major uses of this coal were, it is used to cook food in the olden days. Yes, okay. This coal is the major source of fuel for cooking food. Okay, and also it is used in the railway engines to produce the steam to run the engine, and it is also used in the thermal power plants to produce electricity. For suppose if you consider thermal power plants, okay, we also use this thing to produce electricity, and it is also used as a fuel for many industries also. Okay, it is used in the many industries to produce electricity. In olden days, coal is used different ways for different processes, because coal is present abundantly. So in railways it is used to produce steam, right? So with that steam the train gets moves, right? On the other hand, we have industries also, and in industries coal is used as a heat energy. Okay, so as years progress, there might be science get developed, right? So coal in the industries, now there might be several experiments happened with the coal. When they burned this coal in presence of air, they observed that there is a gas gets liberated, and that gas is nothing but a carbon dioxide gas. Okay, so if you observe carefully, when coal gets heated in presence of air, which gas is released? Carbon dioxide. That was very important question. When coal gets heated in the absence of air, okay, is there air is present here? No. In the absence of air, there might be three products obtained. What are those? Coke, coal tar, and coal gas, right? So these were the three products that gets obtained during the process of, during the coal, right? So when coal get heated in the absence of air. Okay, so let's see what were these now. So if you observe carefully the previous process, as here carbonization, okay, when these fossils gets converted into coal, and the process we'll call it as a carbonization, which means in the process also we have something. What is it? Carbon. So coal contains carbon. Okay, it's a major content, right? So coal contains majority of carbon, right? Now if you look into these three, okay, let's see what these were of. Coke. So if you look into coke, coke is also looks like a coal, but this one a little bit interesting thing, that is, it is a tough, porous. It is a tough, same as like a coal. It is a tough substance, and it is a porous, which means what happens is, if you consider the sponge has different kinds of pores, right? So small holes were present like this, right? So that thing we'll call it as a porous. Coke is also contains some pores, right? And it is a tough, porous, and it's a wonderful substance. That is, it contains the color black substance, right? Black substance. Okay, so coke, if you consider the coal and coke, okay, which is a pure form of carbon? They might ask you. Coke is a pure form of carbon, but coal contains some impurities present here, right? We just separated those impurities. Okay, coal tar gets separated, and coke gets remained, right? So coke contains a pure form of carbon. High amount of carbon is present in the coke, right? So for this reason, this coke is used in the extraction of many metals, right? For suppose if you consider steel, in the manufacturing of steel, okay, coke is used as a byproduct to separate the unnecessary substances from this, right? So steel is, in the manufacture of steel, which substance is used? Coke. Wonderful. So, and also in the extraction of many metals also, coke gets used. Okay, so coke is used in different ways, right? So if you consider coal tar, what? Coal tar. So it is a solid substance. Coke is a solid substance, no. But coal tar is a liquid. Okay, which liquid? It is a thick liquid. right? If you put your hand inside that liquid, what happens is the liquid gets immersed, okay? It's spread all over your hands also. It's a thick liquid. So if it's a thick liquid, black color, and the smell, wow, wonderful smell. What is that smell? It's an unpleasant smell, right? So, but this coal tar is a mixture of how many substances? Means 200 substances. How many substances? 200 substances. That is the reason it gets a priority. And this coal tar gets used in different industries to generate different substances. Okay, let's see what were the substances that gets generated from this coal tar. Let me tell you one by one. Let's say in our everyday life, you know about explosives, right? Explosives. In explosives, perfumes, you know what perfumes, right? Like sprints and everything. Everywhere coal tar is used, and also in drugs. You know what drugs? Drugs, not those drugs, no. We are dealing with medicines, like, so drugs, perfumes. You know what perfumes, right? Like fog, scents and everything, right? So body sprays and everything, perfumes comes under this category. So coal tar is used in the manufacture of these perfumes. And plastics, some of the plastics, coal tar is used. And in paints, you know what paints, right? Different kinds of paints are present: oil paints, normal paints, and car paints, bike paints. Oh, wow. In all these paints, coal tar is used, right? And some photographic materials, like in olden days we have a photographic film is present inside the camera, right? So in those cases also these photographic films might be present. Okay, coal tar is used for those manufacturing. And also roof materials like for suppose nowadays we are getting waterproof Dr. Fix-It, like roof substance, right? So waterproof substances, all these roof materials contains this coal tar, right? And interesting thing is, for suppose if you consider white color something, there is a balls like structure. They are used to repel these moths or insects gets repelled. You know what those, right? What are those substances? A small balls were present. What do we call them? Yeah, naphthalene balls. What? Naphthalene balls, right? So these naphthalene balls were, how do they smell? Okay, they smell so good, right? So these naphthalene balls were also made by using this coal tar, right? And also the major thing that they are going to use in the olden days for this coal tar is used. This coal tar is used to on the surface of the roads, right? So metalling the roads. But nowadays this coal tar is not using. So we are using, instead we are using bitumen. It is a petroleum product. This bitumen is a petroleum product. This is nowadays used for metalling the roads. Okay, so and coming to the final, we have only one thing left, that is coal gas. Okay, so you know about this coal gas, right? So coal gas, when do these coal gas get obtained? They might ask in examination that when coal is heated in the absence of air, it becomes coke, right? When coal is heated to get coke, there is a gas gets liberated, and that gas is nothing but a coal gas, right? What is the use of this coal gas, right? So this coal gas is highly flammable. Wonderful. For suppose if you consider this is a coal factory, and instead there might be some industries might present over here, right? So in those industries, okay, there might be requirement of some amount of fuels, right? So in this they are going to produce this coal gas, and they are going to just transfer this coal gas to the industries. So they are going to use this as a fuel for heating the heat source. Okay, they are going to use as a heat source, right? So in the olden days, okay, not now, in the olden days, in the 1810, that too in London. Okay, in the 1810, that too in London. So they are used this coal gas as a light. They are used to light the street lights, right? and same pattern happens in 1820, that too in New York. Okay, they did the same thing with this, but nowadays this coal gas is used instead for electricity generation, they are used it for heat generation, right? So these were important uses of this coke, coal tar and coal gas, right? So everything you know about it, so keep that in mind and read well. Thank you. Tomorrow we'll deal with petroleum and its byproducts. Okay, thank you.